You are now listening to the Super Coach Experience. The Super Coach Experience. The Super Coach Experience.
Hello and welcome to the Super Coach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Savage, and we are back this week for a winner's journal. So, as we know, our own Tim Moodie has won the 2021 Super Coach by the Daily Telegraph. How has the last week been, Tim? And just recap on what's happened.
Last week's been pretty weird just because there's not been Super Coach. You know, it was the first couple of days I was still opening the app just out of, subconscious sort of nature, just reacting like, I don't need that. I guess the first couple of days was pretty full on. You know, I had the interview with Sangster, and then from that, the radio interviews with Fossey, and then with MG as well. So that was pretty full on. Getting lots of, messages and stuff like that. So just sort of felt like I was just on my phone for a couple of days. But after that's been pretty chill. I miss Super Coach a lot, already. I'm sort of like lacking the I just hate it. I hate that it's gone. I know everyone's got, Super Coach racing and BBL and all that sort of stuff they get into. It's not for me. It's not the same. Super Coach NRL is my thing. I love it and I miss it already.
It's a bit weird having NRL games on and not cheering for certain players Super Coach wise. Yeah,
it's kind of nice though in a way. Like it's the thing I like to sit and watching the footy and just enjoying the footy and watching it for what it is compared to being on edge and in the last couple of rounds sort of just cheering for and against players. But yeah, I don't know. It sucks. The good thing is like the finals footy is so much better quality. It's it's really good games, but there's less of them, and then each week there gets less and less. So last week we had 4. This week we've got 2 next week. Then it'll be 1. So yeah, it's getting tough, man. I'm missing my footy already.
Well, I guess you're not going to miss Penrith because they're playing this week. What are your thoughts on how the finals have gone so far, and where do you see Penrith, and who do you think is going to end up in the grand final?
Well, I really wanted it to be Penrith and Melbourne. That's not going to happen now because I wanted Penrith to beat them in the grand final. Look, we went down last week. It is what it is. The Bunnies played really, really well. It would have been nice to have won that one, but I think we'll have a good opportunity to make up for it this week against Para. I think we'll play well. We'll just play our grand final a week early. I see it. We play the grand final against Storm that 1 week early, and then we have to kind of do it again against another team. So it's kind of like 2 grand finals now. So I still think we can do it. It's just going to be a bit tougher.
I think how Penrith have gone in the last couple of weeks, it probably works out for them. They haven't really clicked like they did prior to round 12, and I think they need that rhythm going into at least the preliminaries. So this week could really spark up something for them, and I see them beating Melbourne. I don't think Melbourne are unstoppable. Everyone's saying they're the team to beat, they're unstoppable. Yes, they are the team to beat, but I think there's still flaws in them. They're just not making errors. So I think teams are constantly choking against them, and that's. Do you kind of agree with me at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can't say they're unbeatable because Para beat them and Penrith beat them earlier in the year as well, so they can be beaten. But the thing is, I don't know, they just always seem prepared. They're always on, especially for the big games, and all their players across the park just seem to just do their job and perform out of their skin. So it's hard to beat them, you know what I mean? But I think we just need to, whoever plays them needs to be on their best game, and because the Storm try to stop you from playing your best footy when you play against them, I think. So you just need to sort of come up against them and play out of your skin. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough, man. I think Storm are definitely the team to beat if that's, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Penrith or Storm are going to be in the grand final. Who's going to be on the other side, do you think?
On the other side?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be Penrith and Manly. There you go. If it's going to be that way, but I like that grand final. It's a fun grand final, but it's probably, you know, a realist would probably say the Bunnies and Melbourne.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to see that grand final personally. I'm a bit scared of the Roosters this week from a Manly perspective. But if we get through them this week, I'm pretty confident that they can beat the Rabbitohs. They got their side to beat the Rabbitohs, and that's a world where, who knows, we could have a Melbourne Manly grand final or a Penrith Manly grand final. I think, it's unlikely we're going to get a good grand final this year, but hopefully all works out for us. I guess moving on from footy, you won Supercoach. You donated pretty much all of it to your sister. How has your sister gone since we've last heard? She's had surgery since then.
Yeah, she had surgery, which is really good from all accounts. I think they've taken everything. We still yet to find out the information, but they've given us, it's gone really well. Yeah, she's got like a few other appointments this week, just dealing with her fertility side of things. And then I think chemo is pretty much around the corner. So yeah, it's weird. It hasn't really completely sunk in yet, totally, everything. But yeah.
It seems like it's gone as well as it could have. So I guess knowing the support you've had in the last couple of weeks, it's very grateful for that, I assume.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's actually mind blowing to see the amount of people that got around. I was surprised that it was even a story, to be honest. That people wanted to find out about it, like radio stations and stuff like that. So, it's really touching. There's been some really heartwarming messages that have come through and stuff as well. So yeah, it's very nice, man. And I think having good people around you and knowing that, people want to see you get through it is a big thing for someone, I think, going through that.
It's been really awesome. And people that you just wouldn't expect to get messages off, and even donations. Totally. It's been awesome. On a lighter side of things, has the money hit your account yet?
No, they reckon about 3 weeks from when I spoke to them. They said 2 weeks for most, but they said for this amount an extra week. So see what happens.
All right.
Check it out urgently, but yeah.
So have you got the tracksuit?
No, but I did actually. I've been very pedantic about it because I wanted to make sure I got the measurements right. You don't want to get it wrong and have them sent out to you. So I actually went to a little lady, all COVID safe sort of situation, and had her measure it for me. So I've got my measurements done. I put that through today, actually. So
that's pretty cool. I can't wait for that to come through. And you on the show next year in the KFC tracksuit.
Yeah, probably most weeks. Hey.
Yeah. So let's start with your season. So we're going to do a round by round thing. I'm not sure if anyone's done this before, so I apologize if it's sketchy by any means, but we've tried to prepare as much as we can to make it go smoothly. So preseason, funny thing about the preseason, I actually went back in the archives for the podcast, and you actually didn't come on the podcast till after round one because you were just not prepared to build a team until you saw team lists. How was that thought process?
Yeah, like I sort of got invited to all the chat groups, and there was more chat groups than normal, and everyone's talking about people they're considering getting for it felt like months. And I just sort of, that's why I made my name The Lurker, because I was just sort of reading comments occasionally, just sort of like, oh, yep, put it down. Most of it I would have missed. But yeah, I don't really like to get into it. I don't really, without having the right information, I just feel like it's too much if, buts, or maybes. And I feel like if you start building your team and then you find out, 5 of these players are now not relevant, then you're trying to replace them with the puzzle pieces that don't really match your side. So I just feel like having a blank slate from TLT's kind of nice. And
I think that's a good way to go about it. I feel like with teams that, through the preseason, I had multiple teams and multiple players come in and out. And when them players that you had in your side briefly do very well in the first 2-3 weeks, you really kick yourself. And because you've got so long to have so many players in and out, it's so likely that there's going to be 1 or 2 or even a handful of players that happens with.
Yeah. I reckon for a lot of people, they make that many different, people coming in and out of their side that they've probably almost had nearly anyone that's relevant in their side at some point. So they're like, oh, I almost started with him. You know what I mean? And they feel bad about it. But yeah, I don't know. Look, I just feel like I don't really get it getting into it too early. You know what I mean? I was asked to write an article, with some players that I might be relevant, but they were just things, that I had to sort of create and think of. It's not something I'm even thinking about next year yet at all.
Yeah, 100%. So with your players, you pretty much started with a clean slate, saw team lists, and built your team around that. I guess the advantage of doing it the other way is you can see all the different combinations you can use and what fits best for you. I think that's why people do it. But the way you've done it, you've won the competition. So there's obviously, you don't need to put that much thought into the preseason, because sometimes you might overthink things. Like I know a lot of people were kind of off Ryan James after a while because they assumed he might not get the minutes, but he was named to start round 1. So the fact that he was named in that round 1 side, all the preseason talked a lot of people out of it. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So who did you start with in round 1 of note, and who did you start with that was a negative effect on your team as well?
Okay, so let's go to round 1 team.
Are you going to go to round 1 game?
Well, that's how I'm going to see my starting side, I guess.
Yeah.
If that's what
so
you want to
I've got some of it up here. So obviously Ryan Pappenhausen, 124. You started with Cody Walker, which is
not many people did. Yeah.
So he actually started quite well, and you held him for the whole season?
No, I sold him a couple of weeks later, I think, maybe 4 or 5 weeks later. I think he got for Munster.
Oh, okay,
Yep. But I did get Lil at some point as well. Yeah. I rotated them around a fair bit. I think I sold Munster to Lil.
Yep. Awesome. So, starting round 1 side, I'll read it out here. Walker, Rena Smith, Connor Watson, Junior Paulo, Ryan Madison, Jordan Ricky, Tedesco, Crichton, Takiaho, Tupanua, Gazewski, Nathan Cleary, and have you got a couple of others in there?
Yeah, underneath Nathan Cleary. Of course, it's frozen up on me now. I don't know why. It does this sometimes. You have to close it off. Okay, we're back. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
Sorry for the show. Show me game day. There we are. All right, we're on. Why won't it? It's not allowing me to.
That's all right. Don't stress. We've got this round 1 score, 14-17.
Oh, here we go. We're on. Capewell's underneath.
Capewell. Yeah.
68 in that week. Staines 18. Jacob Little 71. Dane Laurie 47. And on the reserves that didn't play, Tessie New, Saab, Sam Walker, Spencer Linu, Simonson, Atakamano, Blore, and Moylan.
Awesome. So that round 1 side, there's obviously nothing special there. There's
No.
there's no one out of the ordinary. You weren't trying to go tricky. You started with a pretty basic side. James
Yep.
Tedesco was your captain that week, and you scored 14-17. After that week, I think no, it's not that one. Let's go to here. So that week you were ranked 190th after one round.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. I had a good week, and it was like just enough above other people that it sort of got me into that topper spot, I guess. But
yeah,
it's funny how you can sort of drop off just after a couple of weeks, I guess. But I sort of started to make a little bit of sacrifices, I think, around week 2 and 3 to start to try create my team in a different way. But yeah, we can get to that.
Sweet. So after that round 1, you used one trade as seen here. Sean Blore to Ryan James. What was the thought process there?
Well, Blore, we were getting the idea that he wasn't going to be starting to about round 8. And I thought, look, I need to sort of, these people obviously need to get in. So I needed to get rid of some people. And I thought, look, I can get him back at some point if he becomes relevant. So I wanted to get James because he killed it in round 1. And I was actually pretty close to selling Madison that week. I can't remember exactly what he scored. Here we are, Madison. He got 67 in round 1, but I was pretty keen on selling him just after because I didn't like what I saw on eye test. I was like, and I had a chat with Ado. I decided that Ado was my consultant at that point. He was the guy I was going to. I was liking what he was saying pre-season and stuff, and just some of the in chats and stuff. He sounded like he was really on the ball. So I had a chat to him. He's like, probably don't sell Maddo, but, was like on the idea of, probably need to get James in if you want to bring in 2 other people next week as well. Or, so you can't bring in 3 sort of thing. So there was sort of those 3 people I wanted to bring in, which you can see Barnett and Brayley I wanted to get in the week after. So, yeah, James obviously didn't turn out to be everything we wanted, but I think he scored about 60-ish the week after as well, which was handy, but then sort of fell out of the side a bit.
Yeah. I guess he was also kind of a handy number later in the season. Did you play him at all later in the season?
Not really. Only in buy rounds. Most of the other time, I don't really think I played him much. Even when he scored well for the Doggies, when he moved over there, I still kept him, but I didn't play him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so
he was kind of one of my worst purchases, I guess.
Yeah, because you didn't really get to play him, and you didn't really.
And I couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah. All right, so I've got audio from when you came on the podcast first in the year, and this was just after round 1. So let's give it a listen. Jesus, where's that gone?
I can hear a murmur, but it's very faint. There's something going on, but you'd need to. Are you going to edit this bit out? You edit this bit out, right?
Can you not hear that?
Only very, very quiet. No one will be able to hear it.
Oh, right. Well, then let's just scratch that. So pretty much you were saying
you'd have to hold whatever you're doing up into the mic, I think.
No, it's playing through the roadcaster, so you should be able to hear it.
No, that's really weird. I don't know why.
Yeah.
If I can't hear it, then the viewers probably can't hear it.
No, that's all right. So you're pretty much saying that you went up into 190th in round 1, and then you went up to 2000 after round 2. So you pretty much had a really solid start, but round 1 is what helped you get to where you are. I guess just starting here. So round 2, you scored 1,137. So a bit under par. It took you down to 1,700th. And the week after that, it took you down to 2,100. So that was your lowest rank at that point. What were you thinking at that point of the season?
trying to just get my team in order. I wasn't even thinking preseason about trying to win overall. It wasn't a dream, a plan, even an idea. I just didn't think it was something that I could do or it would have, was realistic at all. So I was just trying to beat everyone else in the Turbo Hammies Cup overall. That was my goal. Just try beat these guys. You know what I mean? So that was pretty much, I was just sort of comparing where I was to all of the rest of you guys for most of the early part of the season. But I just sort of wanted to get my team right. So I didn't really care if I sort of lost a little bit too much as well. I think I played Spencer Linu this week. I don't know what I was thinking there. I mean, I got I think I might have been a forced play because I can't remember exactly what I did, but I've got like Remus Smith for a 72 on I didn't play him. Tessie New for a 92, which I didn't play. Jacob Little for a 66, which I didn't play. And there's a whole bunch of stinky scores in here as well. Like I played Simerson for 28. Staines got 10. Capewell got 36. Linu 37. Madison 35. And that's when he got injured that week after week 2. So I was stinking it that I didn't sell him. But yeah, I was already thinking sort of outside the box pretty early and wasn't paying attention to any of the keepers or anything like that. I just sort of wanted to play what I was seeing. And I thought the Madison wasn't looking great.
Yeah, so obviously you pulled the trigger on that. Madison and Moylan to Brayley and Barnett. That was a pretty common trade for that week. The week after, so you actually started with Tupanua, and then you traded him out quite early for Schuster and Tuo for Jacob Little as well. So you had multiple players that you started with that you also finished with after trading them out.
Yeah, so I was pretty loyal to a lot of the guys. It was pretty hard to let go of them. I, made a promise, I'd try to find a spot for them at some point. But yeah, to have to make the hardest part about me making trades was, sometimes it was easy because you'd have guys that you really wanted to get rid of. But half the time I still saw a lot of promise in a lot of other people. But, this one I wanted to get To'o in. And I just thought that was the best way to go about it at that point in my side, was getting rid of Tupanua for him via the duel of probably Capewell, I guess it would have been. And then Little to Schuster.
So obviously after that week, you shot up to 850th and 830th the week after. That's after making them trades. The week after that, I feel like you kind of threw out the window the tactic. You recognized early by the look of it that you don't always have to keep the keepers in your side. You constantly traded them out. And you see this here, Cody Walker and Takiaho out for Munster and Fafita. I assume that you thought Fafita at that point was a must-have, and that was your way of getting him in?
Yep, and I also wanted to get rid of Junior Paulo and Takiaho pretty quickly as well, because I didn't like the way that the props were going as a whole. So I thought if I can get rid of them anyway, then great. So
was it that point of the season that you thought that that the props were a spot for the second rowers, or was it that early, or was that later on where you identified that?
No, I think it was about then, to be honest, because I wouldn't have got rid of these guys otherwise. And I think that I was playing maybe my lesser quality guys. Like, I think sometimes like Takiaho was maybe getting a 50 or something, or a 40. And I thought, well, I'll play Spencer Linu for a 37, bugger it, and I'll improve elsewhere. Or I'll play Atakamano for a 50. So I'd plug some of those other guys that they just weren't getting as much minutes, but I just thought the position wasn't as important. And then gradually was able to upgrade to those positions when I started to bring in Papali'i and Mattis. So brought in IPAP and TKO. No, TPJ. Acronyms are killing me right now. Yep.
So you've actually, you made some awesome moves over the next couple of weeks, and you went down in ranks actually for one of them weeks. So you went down to 1700th. And then from there, that's when the rise started happening. So after round 5,
I think a lot of them were
1700th.
captains. I think a lot of those were
Yep.
captains. So round 6, I remember round 3, I think I vice captained what's his face? Capewell. He got 97 and I took that. I looped it.
Yep.
So
And
that was a weird one.
And Tedesco actually scored 111 that round, though, didn't he?
I think Cleary was the one that everyone ended up banking on. He got 125.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I played you. No, I played someone else that week. Yeah, I looped Capewell for a 95, which is pretty weird. I don't know where my head was at that point.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't think it was that we'd identified that it was that crazy a point scoring yet.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I guess this point of year, you've actually within the first 4 or 5 rounds, you've left a lot of points on the pine and left to be desired.
Yeah, and round 6 was a weird one too. That was a bad captain choice. I went for Feeder. I got 156, so that's like what 73. Is that what 73? No,
78.
Yeah, 78. And there were bigger scores there too. There were like, so I thought I got my captains a lot more correct. I thought I got every captain pretty much nailed, but there was like not really any other massive ones that week in my side. Cleary got a 125, so I guess that's where, yeah, most people went. And I sort of, instead of getting 250 for my captain, I got a 156 that round. That sucked. And I was really I'm looking at the rest of everyone else, and everyone was sort of like in the 1100s, couple of 1200s in the Turbo Hammies Cup, and I was 1093. So that dropped pretty bad there.
So pretty much from round 7, that's when you made your charge. And the trades you made this week, you got out Pappenhausen pretty much the week Trebojevic was available. And a lot of people maybe
he went
to
down.
hold on.
Yeah. He went down, didn't he? Yeah.
A lot of people try to hold on and just to see how long he's going to be. But you obviously got in Trebojevic. A lot of people did as well. But I think the people that got on this week really benefited because he was a good captain option as well. You also got him Papali'i in round 7. I didn't realize that you got him in this early because round 7.
And I still played overs too. Yeah. So I played
you
6. Did. But I just was like getting really frustrated with him still doing well and wanting to have. I wanted him so many rounds, but everyone was just saying, don't get him. You know, when Maddo comes back, he won't be as relevant. He's playing in the middle, playing on the edge, you know, all this sort of stuff. He'll be coming off the bench. It just wasn't happening. So I eventually just went bugger it, getting him because I didn't like that front row position for front rowers. So and he was killing it. So I thought I've got to get that extra, even if it's 30 a week out of him. I've got to get it and get it now and get it early.
So you identified the trend early in the year and you utilized on it. So I guess that's a lesson leading into next year. If you see a trend early, just jump on it, and it might not work, but most of the time, if you see a trend early in the season, it's going to work out. And so from that round, what did you score to get to? So 1372 you scored.
Which week are we looking at now? Yep, 7.
Week 7, 1372, and you went up to 900th, 899.
Captain Cam Munster.
I remember that. He updated quite a bit.
Teddy got a 34 as he got a 16 that week because whoever I played, the Eisenhuis, the spy there, he only got 17 that round. So that's crazy. Turbo got 118, so I missed the getting on Turbo. Munster must have had a nice matchup that week.
He played the Warriors.
Okay.
He played the Warriors, and he got updated. I remember this quite distinctively. He got updated a forced dropout after lockout was locked out, and I remember you talking about it on the podcast.
Okay. Yeah, Fafita scored 153 that week as well. Remus Smith, 109. Some
So,
kind of bigger scores.
so because you
Worse
held
than
Remus Smith, as well, that was a nice little pod that helped you jump in the rankings. The week after, you went up to 530, and the trade you made that week was Fafita out and Munster out for Madison and Nicarima. So this was prior to round 12. Nicarima wasn't playing round 12. What was the thought process there with getting Nicarima in so early?
I was trying to, because when I was looking at my buy planning on my app and I was looking at how many I had for round 13, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it's looking okay and on track. But then I'd look at round 17 and I had like only 2 players and they were really bad players to even try bank on to even hope that they'd get 40. So I was like, I need to start building for round 17 buy as well and bring in people that are, if I'm going to start buy planning that early out for the second buy, I thought they need to be somewhat keeperish. He was scoring pretty consistently, and I think he was kind of going a bit under the radar.
Yeah.
Munster was coming up for Origin soonish. He may have got injured around then. I think he must have got injured or something for me to have got rid of him for a short period, I think, too. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger unless, I don't think. But, it's pretty funny looking at that. Like, I thought I was really conservative the whole season, but I'd pretty much only saved a trade the first week and then went ham up until week 8. I didn't use any in round 9.
You
I
didn't either.
So I didn't use any in round 9. So I saved 2 there. But
so obviously from round 8, you're quite happy with your buy coverage. I actually missed this one because it was like on the edge. Round 8, Paulo and New out for Pangai and Hines. Now, this is arguably the trade of the season for you. Getting in Hines round 8, and he killed it from here. You got him for 296,000.
Yeah, actually, now you bring it up. I remember you guys, I think it might have been you and Mikey in chat were talking about, I might bring in Hines, but then for whatever reason, you guys ended up having to go a different way because of an injury or something like that. And I was like, I don't really love short-term plays, but I think it was not so much that I wanted him, but it allowed me to make money, or I was like, he's going to make a little bit of money over this week, but also he's cheap enough to allow for that other purchase, where is that other purchase that I made that week? Hines. Where's the Hines week?
So it's down the bottom. So you sold Paulo and New for Pangai and Hines.
Yeah. So I think I probably more so wanted Pangai than anything that week. That's probably where my head was at. Yeah. So I probably wanted TPJ and needed to try and make that affordable. So I wanted to rush out Paulo because I think he was doing pretty bad. People were getting a bit annoyed with him. And I was like, I'm just going to get rid of him. I've got to get rid of him because he was putting out like some 30s or maybe 40s and stuff, and we're getting really annoyed. So, I wanted to rush him out. And then I thought that, if I can get a starting fullback at, 290K or whatever, that's only playing for a couple of weeks, that's an awesome thing to have in the CT dub spot. So I thought, we've got to do that. But then it just got really lucky with, how much longer Pappy, and I think Pappy got injured the same week that I brought him in or something like that, to be honest.
He played the Dragons like 2 weeks later, but I assume it was actually the week later when you traded out Munster for Nicarima. Munster had an injury cloud, so Hines was starting at 5'8". So I remember you were like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Hines, whether I'm going to play him or not. But Pappy ended up getting injured in that first 15 minutes and Hines ended up with 180. And it was just that I'm pretty sure that week was the week you went up to. So that was round 8. So I think you went up to 108th after that round with a score of 1538.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at round 8. My round 8 says 1419.
No, I'm looking the week after.
Oh, okay, sweet. And I captained Brian To'o in round 8 too, which was a weird one. I went, I captained Brian To'o. That was weird.
Was that against Manly? I think it was. It was. I remember.
Okay.
That was the weekend we went to Nick's and Brian To'o went over for a double, and you were absolutely cheering. And I was cheering on Gutho the game after because Gutho scored 140.
And that's also the week that I played Staines over
Laurie
at last minute. Laurie scored 119 and Staines only got me 19. So I lost 100 there and I was pretty devo about it. I only did it because we thought that that we heard some rumor about Laurie having a hammy issue.
Yep.
And that was the week Sini came in, but he came in for, I think it was Mby instead.
Yep.
So on to round 9. Captain Travojevic for a captain score of 382. So I don't want to do the half maths. I'm terrible at it.
191 against the Warriors.
Yeah. Staines got a 115 the week after, and I played him.
Oh, nice.
Munster scored 100. Hines got a 96. IPAP got a 97. Fafita got a 97. Cleary got 107.
Wow.
To'o 71. So there's a lot of big scores in there. There's a few small ones.
You scored 1604 that week and you went up.
Oh, I've got 1538.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the week after. I'm sorry.
That's
so
all right.
1538, you went up to 108. So huge week for you. That was pretty much at this point. What were you thinking for your overall aspirations?
So I think once I got to 108, I was a bit like, wait, hold on. This is kind of cool. I'm almost, back into this, a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly. But I think once I landed top 13, that was just like, you know what I mean? This is crazy because it was such a big jump as well. I think that's when the belief started to really hit home when I reached 13. But so what round are we at there?
Yeah, so round 9 is when you went up to 108. But round 10, you had another big week, 1604, went up to 13th. What players went off for you then?
So 1604. So we've got Simonson started the round for a 16. Which was, you always hate your first, like you start off with a play like that, you're always going no. But Teddy got a 130. Hines got 182. Staines got 72. Jerome Lirawai got 23, which is a bit stinky. Turbo got 119. Angus Crichton got 119. Cleary was the captain here, and this was the round he went nuts. And I was up with my little brother, I think, and he got 225. I think this is the round he broke the record. I prayed for him this round. I prayed to Nathan Cleary this round.
Was this
round 8? Round
10?
8 was when I started my prayers. I think I was praying from about round 8 to round 12 to the captain sort of thing. But yeah, I prayed to Nathan Cleary this week. And he answered, which was nice of him. Saab got a 100, which I didn't play, and Watson got a 70. I didn't play, but yeah, just having that captain score was pretty big. But I think a lot of us might have got it, or maybe some people might have went elsewhere. I'm not too sure, but I remember that being a pretty big week, especially because Hines got the 182, and that was in the same night. I was watching both games of footy, sort of at a pub that weekend when we weren't in lockdown. And I think I knew that was massive. I knew I was having a massive round, especially because I think a lot of people went Pappy. That's why I think I knew I was having a big round, because a lot of people were captaining Pappy and he got injured, I think, possibly. Is this week he got injured or not? Did he get weak?
Yes, it is. This was Magic round 10. I'm looking at my score. I got 1369. And I was saved by that last game with Cleary's 225. And that week Trebojevic was only Trebojevic 119. A lot of people looped as well.
Okay, yeah. Interesting.
Brayley 72, pretty good. So obviously you went up to 13th. You're feeling good about yourself. Let's go to round 11. You pretty much stayed where you were, 15, 15, and stayed in 13th. How did that feel?
It was fine. I wanted to make progress, but yeah, I was pretty happy with it still. Sam Walker got an 11 I'm just looking at, which would have been annoying. Captain Hines, he got 276. That's a double, so with the captain score. So that's not too shabby. Nathan Cleary got a 190. To'o got a 100. Turbo got a 159. IPAP a 98. So some decent ones there, but Ikavalu 31, not too great.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think around this point I started to really knuckle down hard and started to listen to at least 2 to 3 podcasts at this point. So and it was really sort of taking a lot of notes, and pros and cons lists were coming out like crazy for every decision.
So I want to kind of fast forward to round 15. Is there anything of note in between these places that you think you want to bring up? So you've traded out Tedesco for Gutson, Crichton for Hughes, and Kickout. So you got in Kickout for the buy round.
Yeah, we got Kickout, and we decided we were never going to sell him after that, so we kept him.
So I want to fast forward to this round 15 buy. So Barnett and Staines out for Fafita and Marju. You went down to 55th after this week, and there was a break in between because of the rep round weekend. How did this feel? Talk us through this.
So at this point, I've made it pretty known that I was, really trying to compete very heavily against the Spy and also Costa in the Turbo Hammies Cup. They were sort of in the top 100-ish, 200-ish, around that sort of area for a lot of it as well. And so I was listening to pretty much what they were doing and trying to match that against what I wanted to do. And if I thought one of them were doing something, bigger, I needed to do it. So this week, Costa brought in Garrick and Spy was going for Feeder, but didn't end up doing it. And I remember I ended up getting onto you and I'm like, we've got to bring Feeder in now. We've got to bring him in early. And we did that. And I think this was the week because he was my new toy as well. So no one else had him. And I also was listening to another podcast, that sort of gave the idea maybe zig when other people were zagging. And I think I really got that into my head. And that's when I sort of was like, all right, I'm going to captain for Feeder instead of Turbo. And the thinking there was Turbo was about to play State of Origin that week as well. The week after he was having a week off or something and then going straight into camp. So the last time he'd done that, he played the Knights and he got like a 40. So I thought that was the second. So the first time we'd seen him before an Origin game, he was really shy from all accounts. Yeah. And then so I thought I've got to use that information. He's probably going to stay quiet again. Everyone will go with Turbo here. And I'm going to go with Fafita. I think he'll have a big one. And they're both on 69 points at halftime. But the problem was the Titans were winning like 34-6 or something like that. And I was like, oh, no. And I was so worried because I knew that the way that the game was then going to change, that Manly were going to just attack. And I knew that was bad for me not being on Turbo. And he just went absolutely berserk. And I was just watching it just like, it was kind of like everything was in slow motion. And then I knew it was bad. And then because Costa had brought in Garrick, and Garrick was on 5 at halftime. And I was really like competitive with Costa at this time. You remember how competitive I was?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, bloody bringing Garrick in. Stupid move. You know what I mean? We're both bagging him out a bit too. Like, sucked in, Costa. Yeah. And I love Costa. He knows that. But I was still very happy that I was going to be able to really, surpass him here. But then Garrett came out and scored like 150 or something at the end of the game as well. And Turbo ended up with a bloody record or some crap as well. So, yeah, it was pretty dark, mate. I was not feeling very good about it. You guys, I got off all the socials. I messaged you guys and said, no more pod, no more super coach. I'm done. Like, I just wasn't doing it. I was like, I'm not doing it. Not finishing this season off, wondering what could have been, adding, this bloody missed captain score because it was a dumb decision. It was like my dumbest choice. I was just adding that. It was a 125-point difference. And then I'm going, and I had that stupid other one where I got influenced to captain, or not captain, but play Staines over Laurie. And I'm going, that's added that up. That was 100 points plus this 125. It's 225. I'm like, I can't make up 225. You just can't make that back. You can try to do better things, but you can never get those points back. So I was like, it's just impossible. You're giving up all hope. I had the craps, pretty big craps, as you know. I wasn't happy. But lucky for me, there was that week off for Origin. So we had a week off Super Coach as well, because it was only the only weekend footy we had that next round was the State of Origin. So I was able to sort of pick up the pieces and and recover, I guess. I came back pretty hard that next round too. In round 16, I think, from all accounts. Where are we?
17-10 just here.
Yeah. And you scored 1490, which I was just clicking on. It's really hard to find my score because
everyone's got your logo.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there going, which one's me? But love the boys, everyone getting around it. DCE. So yeah, we got DCE this week, I think, and he scored 119. Where are we? Yep. And Madison 70, Fafita 82, Cody Walker 99, which was I had a VC on. I think a lot of people might have looped him on that one. Maybe. Nah, you wouldn't loop a 99 there. Probably not. Hines got a 104. IPAP got a 122. Torhu Harris got his 22 for the one game I played him and got rid of him. That hurt because I was really close to going CHN instead of him and would have got a little bit more out of CHN. But Saab got 162, which was massive. Alex Johnson, 170. And Turbo, a captain score of 288, so 144.
Yeah.
So that was pretty solid. But Connor Watson, I left on the Pine, got a 107, and I played Brayley instead, who got 46. Had I played Connor Watson for 107 instead of Brayley that week, I would have had team of the week, like the highest score, and got the 2K for. I think I was a gold member by this time. I think once I got to about round 13, I signed up to gold. Yeah. So yeah,
cool.
that was pretty good. I was back in the game then. I was like, all right, sweet. Because the mental part that really stuffed me up was with Costa going so good that week prior in round 15 and me going pretty average. We were 2 points behind in overall scoring and 1 point in the rankings. I was 54th and he was 55th. And I was like, he's got me now. It's over. The season's got me. He's too good. This guy's too smart. The only thing I had, I think, going good, I knew he had still used a lot of trades, but I was still coming up against people like, Henry that was higher up than me, and he was still a few moves ahead of me, and I knew he had saved one more trade than me as well, and I was like, but I'd saved more than most, so I was still sort of with the mentality at this point of I'm going to come home strong when everyone's falling over. But then I sort of sprung into first pretty quickly, and then the mindset changed where I started to think I've got to start trying to protect my lead in an attacking way in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, you moved up to 10th with 17-10. You moved up to 9th the week after in round 17. with the bye round with 787, so you stayed pretty good there. Then you got fifth for the round in round 18 with 1725. This leading up to this, we knew that this could potentially put you into first. How were you feeling that week, and what was the thought process?
Well, I think people could see that I'm looking at my scores compared to everyone else. It's pretty massive, yeah. Like the scores around me, there's some 1400s, a lot of 1100s, 1200s, 1300s, and I got a 1725. I think a lot of people were saying you probably could go into first, and we're trying to do the maths and stuff like that. But I was never really had my eye on first too much, like I wasn't really trying to compete against him at this point or any of them. I was watching their side, or I wasn't even paying attention to how many points behind I was. I was just sort of like, how can I get my team the best I can make my team, sort of thing. I think that's where I was at. But I captained Hines. He got 160. I can't do the maths. 332 as a captain score.
116. 166.
Yeah, it's a bit. I could probably double it, but then I can't do it backwards. I don't know. And it's weird because I'm on the spot too. Ikavali got a 123. I'm trying to think where everyone else might have gone with the captain this week.
I think
Kickout got a 95, which was pretty sweet. Dewey got a 154.
So that was the massive one that I wanted to speak about. Dewey, a lot of people didn't have him in at that point, and you had him in for a 150. Why were you so confident getting him in that late in the season when the season was on the line?
Well, I remember the spy was really big on him, and I was like, let me have a closer look at this, because he was never one of the players I really loved. Like he annoyed me when he was doing okay in the earlier parts at 5'8", but I know it wasn't someone I sort of really wanted. But then I had a closer look at it, and I was like, hold on, he's really easily getting like 80s. And then I went back and sort of watched the games and how he was getting it for a couple of games. And I was like, how did he achieve these? And a lot of the time it was pretty easy. So I thought there was a lot of potential for him to go pretty big, especially with the draw. His draw was crazy, the Tigers, for a bit there. How they didn't get into the 8 is probably very disappointing for them. But that was – it just looked really nice, man. I remember I was either going to go him or the Cheese. That's who I was tossing up between. I think I've regretted it a little bit down the track just because I could have had a better dual versatility, which would have been really handy at one stage. But I think looking back on it, he was probably a crucial play, especially that week.
It was definitely a great option for the weeks he did play. Cody Walker was the massive captain option that week. He played the Bulldogs in the last game, scored 79, and everyone was absolutely riding that on the last game, and we were death riding him. I captained Dewey that week, so I was looking at a good rise as well. So,
That's right.
It was that was a massive week for you, and you went into first there. With these trades leading up to round 25, so obviously you were in first. You got in for Toa. You traded out Toa for Nofaluma. This trade, do you feel like this could have burned you?
Yeah, it could have. I mean, he didn't score great, but Toa looked like he was gone for the season. I really liked Nofo on the back of Dewey, and it just didn't happen enough. Like, they just weren't getting the ball in good attacking areas, and if they were too often letting Brooks sort of take the ball and not going to Dewey's side and stuff. So it was pretty frustrating. That was a bit annoying. There's a lot. Looking back, and I don't know who else I would have probably gone. There's probably other options, but he seemed at a good price.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot at that point of the season. I think all the other options came towards later in the season. But this week after, this was my favourite one. Watson out, Ikevalu out for Harry Grant. Obviously, that was a good one to finish the season. And Kalen Ponga. So the week you made this decision, you pretty much called all of us after the podcast because what you were doing was telling us what you were thinking after the podcast because you didn't want us to subconsciously say things or hold back things in case like
it gave away stuff.
Yeah. It wasn't like a trust thing. It was more
I didn't
like
want you to have the information that you, I just want you to be able to freely talk and
And exactly, Mr. Loudmouth over here, I'm always the one who gives it away. So I'm glad you did that.
One of them I remember accidentally you said was something like, oh, when it was right at the end of the podcast, I'm like, oh, awesome. He's done, as I was watching you like a hawk, he's not done nothing. And then right towards the end, you're like, oh, and when Brian went down, I remember I called Timmy and he was, pretty relieved, he was pretty happy about it because he'd saved the trades and I'm like, the thing I didn't really want is people to know that I'd saved trades.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest info I was trying to keep quiet because it was tough because all prior to that, I'd sort of been every week, you got to save trades. So I was thinking people can probably go back to when I was last on, have a listen, and they'll probably find out I've mentioned what I've got at some point because I wasn't really too worried about the eyes on me until I got into first.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously when you're in 10th, the eyes aren't on you because
at all. No,
you got to be the one who has the eyes on the people above you. But this one, Ponga to Grant. So obviously you called us and you said, I like Ponga's draw. I want to go Teddy, but Ponga looks like the guy to me. But then the week after, after the podcast, you pretty much said to us, you're like, listen, this has been my plan all along. I've gotten Ponga so that other people behind me can make a decision on their fullback because a lot of people had their fullbacks as Gutson. There was a guy with Will Kennedy. There was a guy.
Some stuck with Hines, like still had duelled Hines, but probably would want to move him back. Via duels. Yeah. So a lot of people are still holding like To'o or injured players that they could get rid of as well.
Yeah, so I think this was like the masterstroke of the season. I think it was. You pretty much identified that they were kind of playing cat and mouse and just waiting for someone to make a decision. You made the decision on Ponga. So what you assumed is the only way they can make up ground is make a decision on the fullback, and the only one left that was genuine was Teddy. Yeah. So your plan was to go Ponga for the week against the Broncos and then the week after trade to Tedesco. Cleary actually came back in round 22. So this threw a spanner in the works because Jerome Hughes was in doubt. And you really wanted to see how Nathan Cleary went. So talk us behind that and why you didn't pull the trigger around round 22 when Tedesco got 99 and Ponga got 40.
Well, yeah, so the plan was to try and I wanted to block that fullback position. I wanted us to all have the same position, same person, Turbo and whoever else going home. And yeah, like a little bit prior to that, it was tough because I was like looking at everyone else going, someone's got to make a decision. This guy's not making a decision. And then the end of the round, you'd have a look and no one had made the decision again. And it was pretty apparent that we're all waiting for Pappy, but it just wasn't working out. But then it got to the point where I was like, I've got to do something. I've got to act on it. And if I bring in one player, then they'll all just have to go the other. Just it's the only way. Because I figured that the fullback was the best position to get those 150s, 200s and stuff like that. So, so bringing in Ponga, I wanted to get Teddy in round 22. But as you said, Cleary came back as like a surprise early inclusion. And I was like, oh, no. I don't know who's a bigger threat now. And with limited trades, I was like, I might need to assess whether I, maybe need to get Cleary. let's see how he goes. There was a little bit of rain in those games, and they were at the same venue, and not the same night. The Tedesco Roosters game, and also the Penrith game, which was just prior to the Roosters game.
Yep.
So I think I called you, messaged you guys, and I was like, I'm gonna have to hold off and just have a look at it, which was kind of painful because I think he still probably scored Tedesco like a 90 or something, and Ponga had got like a 40 or something like that, which was a bit of a rough thing to cop, just that 50 hit. But the week after, I just decided that it had to be done. Like, it was too risky going against, and I just had to match that one regardless. To if I wanted to get Cleary, I could have got it too, but it just would have been making other yucky sacrifices. I would have had to sell DCE or Hughes, and if I sold Hughes, I'm just creating more pods for myself. And if I sold DCE, I kind of saw it as a little bit sideways, even though I thought Cleary had a little bit more potential.
So with round 23, Trebojevic was out that week with the cheekbone thing.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was the captain options. It was non-existent. There was not very many captain options. So you didn't have many options to go with. And Tedesco, it was always Tedesco for you, obviously, but
it stood out. Yeah.
How was the feeling knowing that everyone behind you were thinking, maybe the second place who captained Tedesco was thinking, holy crap, I could be in first here. And then the minute he sees lockout, you're still at first.
Yeah, it would have been frustrating. It was pretty funny, though. I did enjoy that week. It was very because Ponga had, I think, the Dogs, and it was a pretty good matchup for him as well. And Ponga was in the last game, so and I think he scored really poorly. Like, I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, I just knew that they would all be aware that I would probably have it on Ponga, and that them doing the maths, that would have shot me, well out of first and probably about eighth or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was nice. It was nice. I did enjoy that moment of them not knowing, sort of thing. I think we were you were pretty keen to sort of like let them know.
Yeah.
like let's let everyone know you got him. And I'm like, no, we'll just let them see it.
What round was this? Round 23. So it was still in the balance there. And round 23. So round 24, I think this was the week you found out about Jamie, wasn't it?
Round 24. Yeah. So on the Thursday, it was about probably about 3 o'clock in the Arvo, and I was just chilling, and then Mum let me know, so I just went straight over to my sister's place just to be with her, and ended up watching the footy there. And I remember the first night wasn't that great because I played Brayley over like Satili, I think, was my decision, but which still ended up working out all right. But I think Brayley got like a 40 or something, which is a bit disappointing. I thought he could have done a little bit better in that game. I think who did he play?
They played the Titans on the Thursday night.
Titans, yeah, and it was a very low-scoring game, 15-14. Yeah, so, but then from there, like the rest of the weekend just went pretty out of this world from the scoring.
So this was obviously the weekend that won it for you. Obviously leading up to it, it won it for you, but this was the weekend that really topped it off. You think something was looking after you because of the news you found out?
God, it's pretty much, like, unless it's just some sort of massive coincidence, but it did feel like that. Especially because I was very aware of, the top. I was always just looking at the top 8. I don't know why I didn't look at 9th and 10th. I just always knew what the top 8 were and who they all had in their side. I had a notebook written down and stuff. And I knew who they had, and I was just like, wow, their players are all going terribly. And I was pretty much felt like, it was. But then when we checked the lockout, and it was 404 points, it was pretty certain. But I remember going into that round thinking I was very tossed up on whether to just attack hard and bring in Nathan Cleary. And I think there was a few options I was considering. It was either like To'o and Haas, which didn't work out price wise, but I think I could have done. There's so many different options, but I know that To'o was in one of the variables and Cleary was also in one of the variables. But yeah, I was very tempted to do that because I didn't want to, be behind with a week to go. And then I still knew I had trades up my sleeve, but I thought then you've only got 1 week, you know what I mean, to try and make it up. And it just felt really scary, especially with that last week. I think it didn't really matter which way I went about it. If I had have brought in, I think I was going to trade out Connor Watson and bring in Cleary or something like that, via Jules or something like that. But yeah, I would have scored pretty similar, and my score would have been pretty similar as well. In round 25. But yeah, it was pretty full on at that point though, just because I felt like it was just with going into round 24, I was like, whatever I do, I can't change it. You know what I mean? I can't in 2 weeks' time. This is going to be my story. My story is going to be I either won Super Coach or I should have done this. I was that close and I should have done that. And I didn't want to have that story of I should have done. So it was just like, it was really handy. I had, I sourced out Adam DeRusi because I could see he was really good with, numbers and stuff like that as well. And he was I could see him as a smart guy, just a really logical guy. And because I had, you guys in my corner and Des as well, who I was using quite a lot. And some of you guys and Des can be a bit creative as well as myself, but having him there kept me a lot, grounded and sort of like, nah, that's not a really, you could do it, but you probably don't, you know what I mean? Like with the Cleary thing. So he encouraged me to sort of hold, which was which in the last round, having 2 trades just made me feel comfortable. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I needed at that point. I needed to feel comfortable.
Yeah, that week was absolute carnage as well. So the fact that you had 2 trades, what round did you bring in Jerusi? So he pretty much, sorry, I'm getting a bit of echo here. So he pretty much said to you, he gave you statistics on how every week would play out if you did these certain trades and things. So at the end, you got in Burton and Haas for the last round. And that was based on his advice, right? Because they were the most common players.
Yeah. So it was either going to be like Best and Haas. It was possibly going to be Cleary at one stage if Hughes didn't play.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of different ways we went about it, but this was the boring way just the way it turned out. I was really hoping that Hughes got ruled out so I could bring in Cleary. And it was just because the guy in, I think it was 3rd or 4th, might have been my biggest threat by team numbers and most pods. So by blocking out his math side of it, like I could break it down into highlighting and stuff like that and work it out and go like that. But he was like, on a math side of things, this is your safest option. So it was nice, but yeah, in hindsight, it could have gone either way and it would have worked out. But I sort of thought him out and just because I didn't know him, I just listened to him on the SC playbook, and I was kind of like, "Hi, you seem really smart. I'd like to ask you some questions." And he was just really nice and helpful, man. I was sort of like, he kind of was like a little bit of a big brother to me in the end. It was weird, really, really helpful.
He looked like he really wanted you to win, and he was awesome. And especially after, he's been very, very nice. Just a great bloke. So obviously you won, your story came out, and you're here now, just living the life.
Just chilling, yeah.
Just chilling in lockdown.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I've got a few questions from people on Facebook here. There's not that many. I don't want to go into player things for next year because that can be a next year Supercoach thing. So there's maybe 2 or 3 questions here. So how often did you look into so Martin Church, how important was it for you when looking at a player to consider their draw for the next 3 or 4 rounds, and how easy their decision was?
Yeah, that was a massive consideration. I think, especially more so after the buys, a lot of my considerations going prior to the buys were thinking, all right, I need buy players. So if I was tossing up between, a couple of players, I'd get the guy that was going to play the buy. So, but after that, it became very, very matchup focused, and it was pretty much a 3-week to 5-week sort of bracket that I would sort of be like, all right, sweet, I've got to jump on this guy and jump on him now because the draw is just that good. And it was pretty clear to see that if you had players that were in a side that won 50-0 or 50-20 or something like that in a really high scoring match, that most of the players were going to score pretty well across the board.
Yeah.
Or the main attacking players like the fullbacks and the 5/8 halfbacks were going to have pretty out of this world scores. So trying to just sort of get on them. And I think that was, looking back on it, I did get a lot of the captains wrong, but I think I brought in most of the people I needed to bring in the week I needed to, with the exception of Garrick, who I reckon I jumped on a bit late.
Yeah.
I could have jumped on Garrick instead of Fafita that week, and that would have been massive.
Yeah.
And that was in round 15.
Yeah.
But,
there's a lot of questions about captains here as well. And I think we went over the captains throughout the whole thing. You did miss a few captains, but the fact
more than I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
I missed more than I thought.
Did you get that Pappy 197?
What week was that?
Maybe week 3. Week 3, okay. Maybe.
Sure,
3 or 4.
Familiar. No, I've got Capewell. That was, I did him for 190. I can't even see Pappenhausen in my side, but he did not play in round 3.
Oh, he didn't play round 3, so
can't remember what that was about. Maybe.
Oh no, he had a concussion, and against Penrith he. So you did captain him for the 197 in round 4.
Yep.
So
that was
you didn't
sweet.
miss that. So you missed a few, but not all of them. You missed the Cleary 190, but that week you I'm pretty sure you got Hines 138. So you didn't miss out too much.
Yeah.
But I think with this day and age, if the Supercoach rules don't change, you can miss out on their big scores because they're going to come up very often. Whereas if the rules change and make it a bit more conservative, if someone goes absolutely nuts, it might be a bit harder. Or I guess maybe there's a new ceiling if you miss out on a 250 plus, or if someone gets like a 300 in the future, because it's definitely possible for someone to get 300. Like Turbo's been on 230 with 15 minutes to go.
True.
It's definitely possible. I think there might be a new ceiling if you miss out on that 300 or something, depending on the rules. It might be the season's not over because you missed out on a few of them.
Yeah, looking back, it's surprising how many I missed and how many times I thought I was down and out and was not even within with a shot. So, yeah, I think if you can get a bit of momentum and have a good enough of a run towards the back end, like from 50, like I was sort of from about round 16 to about round 20 to round 25, it was pretty much bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
So the whole way. But
okay, last question. What mistake did you make or notice that other teams this year that should be avoided next year?
There's probably a lot. I think there's the obvious one of people just burning through trades mentally. Especially when I could hear a lot of, like when I'd listen to your ourselves on our podcast or other podcasts, and people were bringing in people, and they didn't really even have a great enough reason to be bringing them in. They just wanted to get rid of someone else.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes if you're just trying to get rid of someone and you're just bringing in someone else just to get rid of that person, yeah, that's not really a great idea. I think sometimes if you can hold someone who's really stinking it up for a bit and just leave them on the pine, don't play them, forget they're in your side for a bit, and use someone else in your side that maybe mightn't have got the opportunity before. That might be handy. But geez, I don't know. I think the mistakes other people made, other than that, I think people were a little bit too, with the props. They maybe could have shifted on that earlier and tried to get in second rows into the props. And other ones, I would say, oh, geez. Yeah, I can't really think, mate, what other people have done that are too. I just think some of the biggest one would be just some of the players that people actually do end up bringing into their side where you're kind of like, whoa, what's that? And I think it's kind of the pod ones. And I understand people trying to get pods, but I think you kind of need to get good pods, and they need to be. They can't be just someone that, like, especially when people see, I think the biggest mistake people make is kind of chasing a pod for last week's points when they see them get like a 83 or something, like a second rower get an 83, or a winger score a couple of tries or something in a cruddier team, and then they just sort of get rushed in as this guy's good, and you look at it going, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
And especially, so I think it's hard to really tell people who those players are, but yeah, when I look back at some of the people, I think, like, without naming names, look, someone brought in, Cody Ramsey. We're all good friends. Whisper brought in Cody Ramsey. I thought that was a bit odd. RCG was brought in by Ado, which I just was like, well, that's a weird one. That's a really weird one, especially with the timing. I know he played buys and stuff, but I just was like, a trade is so valuable, and if you're going to bring someone in, they've got to really improve your side. You know what I mean? Otherwise, there's no point. As long as you can get 17. So I think, I sort of rotated my centers around a bit, and just sort of like guys like Remus Smith was like, all right, Storm have a really crap game this week. Surely his 30 is good for at least a 60 this week. He can get at least one try, or he can, but yeah, it's about all I've really got, man. Off the top of my head.
No, that's a good one. I feel like you really put a lot of thought into all your trades, and there was another question about what made you get Daly Cherry Evans in. I think that just pretty much pinpoints it. Like, everyone else was getting in Sean Johnson that week, and you just looked into it so hard. And at the end of the day, the stats for Sean Johnson this year didn't add up. And
I didn't think the side was looking that flash as well.
And you went with what you saw this season and what you saw stats wise, whereas everyone was going off past pedigree. And I think, I guess that's something I can add. Don't always go off past pedigree, because people are going to fall off. They're not always going to be superstars. You've kind of got to take it year by year. A gun always emerges every year. Isaiah Papali, he is one this year. Is there any others? Who has developed this year? Fafita's turned into an absolute gun second rower. Luai, Dewey. Cody Walker's kind of gone into that next level.
I think you could say Hines. I mean, he's shown great signs towards the back end of last year, but he's probably going to be relevant, I think, in any position next year as well. With the DCE one, I think it wasn't so simple with DCE. It was more so that I was that certain that SJ was not a good option for us this year, and everyone was doing it. So I was like, I love that everyone's doing something that I can really think is not great, because it was such a big amount of people that were doing it. And so each week I was sort of like enjoying that death ride, like, yeah, and everyone being like, oh, bloody SJ, and being like, oh, bloody Tonkus. But yeah, I wasn't sold, and I was pretty close to going either getting Jerome Luai back into the squad, because I thought maybe with Cleary gone that he might really step up post Origin as well. But there was too many, of those lower scores. And DCE, I remember looking back and was like, oh, he's got some bigger ones. And I think it was more with DCE. He did have that tough time in Origin where he copped really, you brought that to my attention as well, like how he players like that, they rise, and I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. And the thing is, with DCE, I think he's the dominant half in that side over Foreign. So I think if you can get on the dominant half back in a good side, it's hard with the Storm, because Munster and Jerome, they don't none of them really either dominate. So you know what I mean, as much. Whereas with like a Penrith, where Cleary's always touching the ball, having people run off him and stuff. Cherry Evans really orchestrates a side. And when you're touching the ball a lot like that, it's handy. And they were a really good attacking side. And I think you can just rely on a player like a DCE to get a job done for you. He's top-notch sort of quality player, like NRL player, whether you look at him as a super coach player or not. You know what I mean? He's a top,
And he does it every year as well. I know I just said don't go off past pedigree, but he actually does it every year where he goes on a run, and just timed it well this year. So I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add?
Well, not really. I think just kind of looking back at it as a whole, it's like, it's strange because, at the start of the year, I had no anticipation, goals, dreams, or anything about trying to win overall. It was more just, trying to be the best in my head-to-head competition, but not necessarily playing head-to-head, just be the best of us overall. So I think we're trying to just have a small goal and focus on that and compete with that really allowed me to, if I'm beating you 20 other 19 guys, then there was a good chance that, because it was a good league, that I was probably going to do pretty well as well. I think that was one thing that in hindsight, looking back on it, was pretty helpful to have, is just that strong competition. So I'd encourage people, I just had a bit of a yawn. I'd try and encourage people to get into some good, whether it's, sometimes you can frown away from wanting to get into a good cash league, like with really, really good competition, because you think, what's the point of, if everyone's really, really good, I might try to find some easy cash comps. But I think if you can get into a good cash comp and really, like where it's very competitive, they don't necessarily need to be podcasters or whatever, but maybe like if you're someone that's, made the top 1,000 and it's a comp that's only available for people that made the top 1,000 last year or something like that, try get into one of those leagues and be, set the goal of just trying to be the best in that league. And that might be helpful to try and be the best overall.
Yeah. I find that when you're in a good league, you're comparing your scores to everyone in that league. And I know early in the season, I was like topping the scores early on, and that made me feel really good because it was
I will just say one other thing, but so yeah, keep going.
No, that was it.
Oh yeah. So this other thing I thought that I hadn't really mentioned. So obviously you guys know that I sort of get a bit funky with my team and, list pretty much the worst side I can going into game day, and then bring on the players, better players, as they're a couple of minutes before they play. That's tricky. I wouldn't encourage everyone to do it unless they're on top of it. But sorry, you were about to say something?
I should have touched on that earlier. So what Tim does is he takes as many people out of his side as possible. So when people look at his side at the start of the week, it's like the projected score is like 500, 400 sometimes. Like
pick the worst captain. A captain that's not playing.
And by the end of the week, obviously he's probably top scored for the week, or what it seemed by the end of the season. So that was a little ritual you had going. And before every game, you would listen to the same song to pump you up. Or before every Thursday, you would listen to the same song to pump you up for every week.
It was like about 5 minutes prior to the first game. So Thursday, I'd listen to whatever the first game was. I'd listen to it 5 minutes before then. And then Friday, the 6 p.m. game, I'd listen to it just before that. And then not before each game, but every day of the football, 5 minutes.
We're not revealing the song though, are we?
Oh, we can. It's not. It's fine. It's "We Will Rock You" by Queen. I did mention on somewhere that I did find out with about, I think, 3 rounds to go, that this song that I've been using the whole year was "We Will Rock You" is apparently based on Vain, Failed Ambitions. So I looked it up in song meaning. So I changed my song for 1 week and then decided to go back to it. And
I'm pretty sure that week you found that out as well. You had a pretty bad week, didn't you?
Yeah, it did. I was like, it's just terrible. Yeah.
And then the week after, I think you had an average week. And then when you just kind of like, nah, I'm just forgetting.
Going back to my song, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll redefine what it actually means. But this is one thing I did think I would want to mention on the changing my team. So at the end of the year, I was trying to get the lowest score going into the round I could possibly get by putting my best players on the bench and not having any reserves named at all as well. So just having 13 players. And often a lot of those players, I'd try to put non-playing reserves on the field. But earlier in the year, what I was doing, I wasn't making it that obvious. All I wanted to do, once I had a good round against you guys in the first round, I was like, oh, you guys are all looking at my side now a little bit. Like, those guys doing the best out of us after first round. So I thought, what I need to do is set you guys, set for like false expectations of my thing. So I try to just not put the right captain that I'm going to have. So, but I'd pick someone that you'd think that I still would have. You know what I mean? Okay, I can see him going Jerome Willaway. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then stuff like that. So my score wouldn't be as big or whatever. And then I started to gradually just, bring off. If I had a really big player that was like projected for 150, I'd try to get him off my field and put someone else on there, because I didn't want my projection to be 120 more than anyone else or something like that, because I was thinking that's going to encourage people to then respond accordingly and try and improve. So I thought, if I can just get people may have not even been looking at it that much, but I was like, if I can just make them, think I'm not doing as good as what I'm actually doing, then I can stay ahead of you. So I think that was kind of handy as well.
That it's definitely a superstition that is an interesting one. Are you going to keep it up next year?
Probably. I'm pretty.
Are you playing next year?
Yeah, I wasn't going to at one point. I even said, look, even if I do win, I'm not going to play because of bloody too much stress. But I love it so much, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. I love it so much. Even when it gets stressful.
You've missed it the last 2 weeks, so you're just like, no, I'm definitely playing.
Yeah, I'm definitely playing it. Even when it gets stressful, I think I enjoy that sort of stress and the challenge and stuff, but it can hurt sometimes because you put so much time and effort into something, and then when it doesn't go your way, it can be quite painful. It's pretty funny how invested we get into our fantasy teams.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazier in the NFL scene as well over in America. So that's it. An hour and a half. It's been a good one. It's been a good chat, reminiscing on the season that's been. I really appreciate you for coming on and sharing the story. I know you're on the podcast every week anyway, so I guess another week isn't that bad. But I guess with the Supercoach experience, we might be here and there. We'll be here for BBL, that's for sure. But Tim, are we going to see any top sport punting previews with you and Jacob?
For what sports? Like I don't know.
Soon, over the next 2 weeks?
Possibly, maybe. I haven't really spoke to him. He's a pretty busy man. He he tightens up a lot with his betting in the finals. We're on a different sort of way of thinking. His way of thinking is that, it's harder to bet on the finals because there's less variables. Teams are usually going to play at their best. You know what I mean? It's not like round to round where you can catch someone a bit off their game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or he finds it's just less able to get a hold of it. But for me, I kind of find that finals time, I've always found, is when I can get it the most right, because I think that the teams you expect to do what they will do that. And I don't know. I'll try to come up with something for you. I know he's come up with a mixed matchup. Well, I was only watching the video just on tripod just prior to us going live and had to stop it. So he's got a mixed matchup this week. It's involving Manly and Penrith in some way. I don't know what it is, but the odds are 350. So he's on them in some way or another. So I haven't listened to it, but he hasn't got any best bets this week. He shies away. Like he said, look, if I don't think that I'm 60% confident that on the line or any of these things, I'm not going to recommend it and I'm not going to bet on it because, if you shot, and he's a very smart punter, whereas I'll be like, well, there's a footy game on and I love footy. I'm having a bet. Even when I say I'm staying away from this game, I'll still get on there and be like, cheeky little bet.
I haven't even looked at it, but usually either side 1 to 12 next week will be a good one. Either side 1 to 12. But with this week,
probably be a bit shorter odds, I reckon. I reckon you'll get it'll probably be about $1.65 in next week for those games, which is a bit short. But
with Penrith versus Eels this week, they could be 13 plus. So
I think the line is about 12.5 or 10.5. So it's pretty much that point anyway of 13 plus or not. So
sweet. All right, thanks for coming on, and
no workers.
That's it.
Have a good one.
Would anybody like some pound cake? I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. Some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. Some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake. Some cake. I'd like some pound cake.